It's the Ryan Mercer Show with Richard Massa. Our hosts and their guests are here to talk about comics, movies, random topics, and everything in between. Now, here's your hosts, Ryan and Richard.
The Oppenheimer Projects.
Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday. It's not Monday.
Tuesday. Yes, it is.
Richard went to New York. Monica was away. I did Santa photos, so I texted Richard yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, I'm tired. I'm pretty sure you are too. Why don't we do this tomorrow?"
Right. And you said only a half an hour, so if you're showing up late, we're only doing a half an hour show. So
we're only doing a half an hour, so everybody tune in. So with that being said, a couple weeks ago, I had the idea of just like doing a Keanu Reeves episode. Because Richard and I were like, when you think about Keanu Reeves, it's like it literally does not feel like the same lifetime. Like it feels like a different person. And Richard was like, let's do it close to the Matrix opening. And next week, dude, I couldn't believe it when I looked it up. 22 years since the first one. I can't believe it.
That part is crazy.
Yeah. When I was thinking about that, so when I got into Star Wars, I was like 8, 9. Because it was the 25th anniversary where they re-released them.
Sure.
And I like vividly remember being like, Jesus Christ, that probably feels like 100 years ago to my dad. And now I kind of feel like probably how the Star Wars fans were like, wow, it feels like it was yesterday in the summer of 77 and now 20 years re-release. So
it's not, but again, this is so I don't know why I'm struggling with this. This is not a re-release. Yeah, this is a full-blown sequel that looks like it makes some sense. It's what the. It's kind of cool because as you're saying in the check the link. This is fun. Check the link. This is where intern would put a link for the Star Wars episode in our bio. In the anyway and. Just edit it out, right? Almost our anniversary of doing full shows like this, where Ryan would be like, "Listen, just talk. You stutter, you mess up, I'll edit it out." And then I was like, "You know what? I don't like that. I'd rather just do Facebook Live because one take. I don't mess up. I don't need to be edited out." So, shout out to Ryan's editing skills. When he used to have slightly more free time, I really appreciate it. This has to feel like for Matrix fans, when you were watching those re-releases 20 plus years after the original came out. And then fans had to wait. Then they got the prequels, and then they had to wait another 15, 16 years for the actual sequels. So the actual sequels to Star Wars didn't come out to like 35 years later.
Right, yeah.
And then you're like, you can't have, like Han looks old, and Princess Leia looks old, and she didn't survive. She unfortunately passed away, and Luke looked older. Here, the characters look older, but you have the benefit of the Matrix where you can mess with their looks and things like that, but you can have all the original actors in and kind of keep that story going, which I am intrigued to see how that story goes. So you have rewatched at least the first one?
Yeah, so I rewatched the first one, and just so everybody knows, I'm just going to say it. I don't think we've discussed it too much, but I'm a licensed, if you will, medicinal marijuana not candidate, person, right? It's legal in New Jersey.
We're voting for you, Ryan, this year. Sorry, this was your announcement that you were going to be the. You are. Yeah, you have a medicinal marijuana card.
Yeah, so I use it
prescription.
And I did use it and watch The Matrix on Sunday, and I feel like I had like the perfect amount intake, right? What a wild story, what a wild movie. And even here we are 22 years later, and I'm watching it, and just groundbreaking, right? Like to use the term groundbreaking. And I was explaining to Monica, like there's little things that you don't think about that you think about a little bit more when you're enjoying some Mary Jane. Lawrence Fishburne just completely setting the standard, or kind of changing up that whole Master Yoda guidance character. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Really owning it, really making it his own. Just the way his body language, the way he was explaining everything. And I was saying to Monica, again, enjoying a little bit here. And I look at her and I'm thinking to myself, it's one thing to read a script and be like, okay, I want to do this role. This movie sounds interesting. We've all watched behind the scenes, and yeah, that's cool. But to have the Wachowski brothers, which are now the Wachowski sisters, explain their vision, and for Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss, for all of them to really seriously do something that had not been done, it really just blew my mind. What do you think? Like, it's groundbreaking, right? I mean, I don't think anything really has come along since that was like it.
No, it was it was groundbreaking. I mean, you described it well. It was groundbreaking. It was interesting. That's when we got that first look at the slow-mo, when he stops time, kind of can do a slow-mo thing. We got some really good technology, special effects rather, out of it. So yeah, I remember being really, really impressed with the original, and and again, I don't have the information to comment on it, but would really love to look at the story behind the Wachowski siblings. I don't hear too much of it where both siblings transition at a certain point. That has to be fascinating.
Yeah, I thought about that as well when I was thinking about it. Yeah,
but again, see, I'm not going to comment about it because I don't know that much about it. Now, listen to Richard talk about it. But I am so curious how much in the late 90s, when they're coming up with the script, when they're writing this idea and struggling with their identity, how much that for both of them played a role in what, without getting too dramatic, like, it's a masterpiece. Like, it is really, 2 and 3 muddle it all up a little bit. So I don't want to mess with that. But the first Matrix was beyond solid. Yeah, like you said, with stuff you hadn't quite seen before, kind of retold in a different way. And listen, the reason we're here, because Keanu's acting, which again, he gets maligned for it, he gets attacked for it. He's you can't watch an SNL, Mad TV from the 90s where they're not doing a parody of Keanu Reeves as like his Bill and Ted character. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's you. Honestly, from the 80s to the you can't watch that. So kind of like how for our younger viewers, how Matthew McConaughey is often parodied.
All right.
Right, exactly. So, and I think that's the thing. We're going to look at his IMDb for a minute here. The Matrix was where, like, okay, you can take that. We took that like whoa voice he has, like that. And it just worked in this crazy setting of the Matrix. So,
yeah, and one of the things that I always talk about, like in general, when I'm having conversations with people, because I am a huge Keanu Reeves fan, huge martial arts practitioner, if you will. I just love it. We had Point Break, we had Speed, we had Bill and Ted, all these great 90s films. Obviously, Keanu Reeves is a huge part of the 90s, huge part of cinema. And this is where I talk about, like, it just doesn't feel like the same person. Not that it's better or worse, but he became a solid martial artist. He became a solid marksman. And now he's like the guy, you know what I mean? Like, you see memes all the time, like, well, what if we put John Wick against an alien? We put John Wick against a Darth Vader, right? Right. And that's not a stunt double. That's Keanu with the guns, with the martial arts, and just like completely owning the role and just being super dedicated. And I have so much respect for that. And I believe he suffered some tragedy along the way. The last 22 years, he's lost his wife, and I believe their unborn child. And he kept going, he kept acting, he kept going on with life, and we see it all the time. He's also supposedly a very, he endured all that, and he's supposedly a very kind, gentle, giving human being as well.
Yeah, when I got home today, I was like, all right, I want to. Let me see what YouTube can give me. And I typed in Keanu Reeves into YouTube. And the first thing was a Watch Mojo list. I'm like, oh, great. Watch Mojo lists are usually like, and it was like top 10 reasons Keanu Reeves is an awesome person. And it was just 10 examples of really kind things he's done. And, the list was a little bit of a stretch because it was like, he once gave up his seat on a bus. Like, oh, okay. Like, but but again, it talked about how humble he is, how how real he is, and we do the news all the time, and we cover these things in the story where we defend our stars. We look at them as with all they have to go through, and his humbleness and his, again, you don't hear of crazy stories. I mean, the last news story that he was big in the news was a couple weeks ago about how I don't think we covered this in our news, but while filming Speed, he was nervous to be around and he brought Sandra Bullock, and he brought her flowers, and then she let him paint his nails, and I got to find that so because it didn't sound like Sandra Bullock can't. Yeah, Keanu wants to. Yeah, so Keanu wants to deliver flowers and champagne to his room, and he was nervous, and but again, that's the thing. He's a real human being, and we do this thing where we make our stars. A news story I heard this morning was the Sex and City stars have reacted to their new show was out over the weekend, and Twitter has blown up about how they look because it's several years after the show's ended. They're 10 years older, and Twitter is commenting on how they look. And the radio personality this morning telling the news was like, well, you got to understand that's part of the game, your looks, and you're an actor. And it's like, yeah, your looks and actors and acting, your looks are part of the game, but there's a huge difference between going, oh yeah, Carrie Bradshaw, I don't know, she doesn't look as believable as a love, there's a difference between that and then just what you see on Twitter, which is just destroying people, they destroy people. And
yeah, the
point I'm trying to make here is that Keanu, the 1980s in the 90s guy who we just said was made fun of and parried, living in if he had done this in the world of Twitter, does he have the strength to survive this? That's I'll try not to keep using this example of how much he was made fun of, but that's the thing. He was just the butt of every joke. Whatever you cast him in, he was, oh my goodness, he's going to be a cop. What's he going to be doing? Whoa, slow down. Everything was making fun of his personality, and the fact that through those years he did all these movies. Can we look at it? Can I read off his IMDb to you real quick? And for those listening, I'm not going to read I'm not going to read all 107 projects he's been into because IMDb lists he was in a cornflakes commercial.
I was just looking. I just saw the Kellogg thing. Yeah.
So I'm trying. So he was in Youngblood, which is for our older fans is an 80s hockey movie, which I don't remember him in. I think Babes in Toyland, which you'll see every once in a while played during Christmas time. I think that was his first okay, we know he's out there, but then it looks like Bill and Ted is what makes him a star.
I would say
any major Keanu fans would be like, no, I was following him when he was in Dangerous Liaisons. Sure, but Bill and Ted is where we all know who he is. Parenthood, and then Bill and Ted sequel. Honestly, for young Richard, Ryan's not born yet. Ryan's you young here in 1991. The Paul Abdul Rush video. It's like, oh, that's the guy. Point Break. Yeah, he's in that Paul Abdul video. But then 1991's his year. Point Break, which is an iconic role with Johnny Utah for him. The Bill and Ted sequel, and My Own Private Idaho, which was kind of like an indie film, or it was it is an indie film that not many people know about, but it let him, less of a Hollywood role. And then again, he's just working in Dracula. And then he was in the Shakespeare film Much Ado About Nothing, and that's where a lot of those 90s jokes come from, because he's reading Shakespeare and he's like, we're out there, Romeo, yay, Juliet. And again, he's just reading a Shakespeare line, and that's his voice. And that's one of those things that somebody probably could have helped him with that, but they chose not to. And then in 94, Speed, Speed, I think, puts him on that next. Yeah, Speed puts him on that next plateau.
That's right.
Then the next year, Johnny Mnemonic, which
that's actually a cult classic. I think.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, Richard working in the movie theater in the 90s. Johnny Mnemonic was like, oh, the dude from Speed and Point Break, and he's it was it became a cult classic. And then it was just a string of A Walk in the Cloud, Chain Reaction, Feeling Minnesota, It's like, okay, he's a solid actor. The Devil's Advocate is with Al Pacino is playing the devil, and Charlize Theron. Really, really good film. If you're looking for,
I think it's on Netflix, or it was.
yeah, I think maybe
recently.
You're looking for Keanu finding himself, and then we hit the Matrix, and then it goes from, oh, he's a big star to he's the Matrix. A couple of my friends and I both love his role as Shane Falco in The Replacements. So I'm curious to see if he actually was the one throwing the football and learned that. And then he just did The Gift and Sweet November. Hardball, which, have you ever seen Hardball, Ryan?
Yeah, that was. I remember that one was one. It came out when I was in middle school, and I hadn't seen it yet. But everybody was like, who had seen it, like at recess or middle school, so not recess.
Right.
They all were. We were at lunch, and I hadn't seen it yet, and they were like, "Yo, man, just that scene where G baby that got me."
That's really
spoilers alerts.
Really good. Yeah, really good memory. Yeah, no, like that. It's this Mighty Ducks kind of ripoff of like a wealthy coach who's forced to help out a little league team, and it's like, all right, it's all the field, but then it just gets dark, and not dark in a court, like it was just like realistic. It's a really underrated Keanu film, Hardball. So, what's interesting here is you're looking, when you tell these stories about an actor's life, you're looking for this dark period of like, oh, look, and here's 5 years they didn't act.
Right.
Like, and as a now we're at 2003. He's in Something's Got to Give with Diane Keaton and Jack Nicklaus. He plays, like, I think Diane Keaton's younger love interest. Again, he's at this point he's a name. You put him in his movie. He tries to take the lead as Constantine. It is a DC superhero slash kind of like demon hunter. That did not hit. It did not quite work. So if you're going to look at, again, but then The Lake House comes out with Sandra Bullock, and and again, that's a popular movie for some people.
That is one hung in there. Yeah.
So let's look here. So that's 2006. So then we go. I'm going to name a bunch of names, and if you tell me you saw one, The Street Kings, The Day the Earth Stood Still, The Private Lives of Pippa Lee.
I like Street Kings.
Oh, you do know Street Kings? Okay.
Did you see it?
I did not.
He was like, to put it just real simply, he was one of those borderline cops. Did a good thing, but then kind of did something in his past that's following him, and now he's seen as a rat. The whole thing, but overall, not a bad movie at all. Pretty good.
2008 to 2014, you would say is Henry's Crime, Generation Man of Tai Chi, 47 Ronin. No huge blockbusters. So about 6 years of and really not working that much. And then in 2014, John Wick
takes on a small role.
Yeah, right. Which right. And my little bit of memory with this is exactly like, all right, here's Keanu. He hasn't really had a major role here. He's taken on this. He's doing what? He's going to be, and
a movie about a puppy.
Right.
That's not going to be good at all. Never going anywhere.
Yeah, I will. What an interesting to fast forward to 20 years, 30 years from now when he's, well, he might not be gone at that point, but when he's gone and people are talking about him in the future, it's really close whether he's John Wick. People say, oh, that's John Wick, or people say that's Neo. I think it kind of depends on if we get more Matrix from here. But right now, he's John. I think he's John Wick to most people.
I think he's John Wick too, 100%.
Yeah,
I actually, just one random point, and this is again me just thinking about smaller details. I am so anxious to see them combine, which I imagine they will. Definitely, I mean, you have to take advantage of it. Like from me, if I'm the producer, taking all of the things he's learned with martial arts and John Wick and putting it together with Neo and just having it be these bananas fight scenes.
Yeah, which I was going to say, I mean, I know Neo knows things, but like you see in the preview for it, where like at some point towards the end of the preview, he's fighting. He's like, "Oh, I know kung fu." Like it's a really it's a well delivered line, and we get that again. John Wick, and so it's interesting because John Wick is not this like career resurgence, because the names I'm going to skip the name in the movies he's been in other than John Wick during this time, because you're like, yeah, I don't I'm not sure I've heard of them. His voice was in Keanu. It's Keanu. Have you ever seen Keanu? It's a Key and Peele movie.
The cat
with the cat named Keanu,
Yeah.
which is just a comedy. But yeah, no, it's a bunch of things. You're like, I don't know if I know that. But John Wick has kept him going, and then apparently he plays himself in a movie called Always Be My Maybe, in the SpongeBob movies, and then Bill and Ted got to have its third movie and sequel in 2020.
Did we need it, Richard? Did we need it?
Listen, Coming to America. Listen, by the way, so we get this out of the way. Podcast idea: sequels that we didn't need. The Coming to America, like that's a great. Like we go through major sequels.
Totally, that's a 2-hour.
Right. But yeah, so John Wick. Again, I don't know if John Wick saves his career because I don't think he wasn't hiding and he wasn't out of work. Nicolas Cage is someone who I think he hasn't worked. Nicolas Cage hasn't worked in a main studio movie in a long time, and it's a little bit is that because he's a little bit of a mess. So with Keanu, I do think it was just he chose his roles. It's just so neat to see. Look at that. Just so neat to see this humility in an interview. Which again, it's funny because it shouldn't be something that we give credit to. He's a nice, normal, not cocky person. So.
I that's funny you say that it's it stands out when they're nice and human. One thing, and if you listen to our podcast, I say it all the time. I love the comment section. I read them just to crack up. I read them to see what other people are thinking. He did an interview with Stephen Colbert to promote the John Wick Parabellum.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And somebody caught and pointed out that whenever anybody, or in this interview in particular, asks him, so what was it like filming John Wick 3? He doesn't say anything about himself. He lists all the stunt actors by their full names. He gives credits to all the people who are behind the scenes holding strings. There's stories that I can't confirm that he gave his a bonus to the stunt people out of his own salary after filming the final Matrix. A video surfaced after John Wick 4 wrapped up filming. Apparently, he took out all the stunt doubles and bought them all Rolexes. But again, we keep talking about how he's known or apparently known recently for just doing all these nice things. And it just, there's a laundry list of times he put people before himself.
And it's worth noting and it's worth repeating because, we can do a Robert De Niro retrospective. He did a really good job, and oh my goodness, I believed him as the mob boss. Oh my goodness,
all 20 times.
Yeah, right. But yeah, again, and that is important. The reason that we're even talking about Keanu is because if Keanu came out and he was horrendous in John Wick, we wouldn't know that John Wick existed, or it would be oh yeah, there's this show that they make fun of all the time called John Wick, where he showed he could handle himself in movies. And his acting became secondary to, and again, we attack actors when they give their political views, or Sean Penn and the Joker, who has a great name. I want to call him Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix. He has again, they're going to get up when they win an award and they're going to tell you about their cause, and they're going to use their pulpit, and people's eyes are roll. I'm oh, I don't need to hear about this, But again, you don't really know that with Keanu, But you got to imagine you're going to be oh, Keanu donated to this organization, or Keanu took care of people. So interesting, that we are talking about more about him as a person than. But that what that's you and I, Ryan. We are most people when they talk about us more about our kindness than our accomplishments. So
yeah, I hope so. I mean, sometimes I'm just getting yelled at, but
yeah, a lot of it is getting yelled at. So
a lot of it is getting yelled at.
Yeah.
But yeah, as Richard and I approach our 30-minute mark on our 30-minute bi-weekly episode, this flowed really well though.
Right. Let me interrupt you real quick just so we'll wrap up Keanu and then we'll preview next week, which I know those of you at home saying, well, that's not bi-weekly, but we skipped a couple weeks, and I do have a New York story because I'm going to see if I can make you laugh with my New York story. But
yeah.
So Keanu, with this retrospective, he's not done.
No.
At this point, he can do what he wants. I do have, after everything we just said about him, I have the impression about him that he's not a person who's influenced by his manager in terms of like, dude, we can get you $50 million to do Matrix meets John Wick. Matrix. Yeah, right.
They're already projecting $8 million for the fourth one. They want to sign you on for the fifth one. He's probably like,
right.
Yeah.
Right, which again, he very much strikes me as someone who's like, let's see where the story goes, or I want to work with the Wachowski sisters again. Like, again, we're not going to see him in a movie. Again, you know the actors. Those of you listening at home, like Alec Baldwin, who seems to be in something, before was always in something 4 or 5 times a year. The actors who just were boom, like Kevin Hart had a moment there where he was in everything. And some of them were bad, some of them were good. There's some money grabs, and again, I think that Keanu is going to pick his spots over the next few years, and again, if we see him once a year in things, but again, I would love to be doing a podcast in 10 years and say, oh, I'm wrong, but yeah, so I think his career is going to be fine. Listen, I couldn't fathom there was going to be multiple John Wicks like this. So,
oh no, and I remember, not for Richard and I to start the podcast.
Yeah, right. Remember, we will. That's what my goal was. Yeah.
I remember vividly. I had just started dating Monica, and I was at home. Still, we weren't living together, so it's kind of that phase where it's like, well, I'm not with her, so I'm kind of just home now. You know what I mean? So, and I was like, I hadn't seen this John Wick movie, and I remember like the whole time I was like, oh, there was this scene. It was just you got to see it, you got to see it, and I just remember being like, yo, like this is something really special. Like, well, that was a cool little, because remember, like it wasn't like a box office.
Yeah, no, it was not. Yeah, right. It was not. Yeah.
And then it just kept going, and it's still going. I don't know if you saw on your IMDb thing, it says John Wick 4 post-production, John Wick 5 pre-production.
Yep,
so maybe we got a double. What is it? Like a first 1 year next year?
Yeah, film back-to-back kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that feels to me something like he knows where the story's going, because John Wick's they got to do probably one of my favorite things is when, or I imagine this, I don't know the story, but John Wick was successful, and then the other two aren't just like, okay, we're going to shoot people. Like it tells it tells his life story. It tells the story. Like there's
100%. Yeah.
Again, it doesn't. It's not a prequel. They're not prequels, but it's like, oh, there's a whole mythos behind this guy. There's a whole mythos behind these, the killers, and there's this hotel that you get to, and if he gets
whole
to
underground world,
whole underground world, and all these connections and these people, and so. If they're doing 4 and 5, it's going to continue that story and these new characters. I think this video that's running in our background, it ends with, or one of the top ones is, while training in John Wick 3, he two of the actors he was fighting with all the time and training with, like he did not want their characters killed. He wanted them to survive because they were so strong. Like he's like, they can't my butt, they kick my butt in these rehearsals. They kick my butt. Like it is not believable that I kill them. Maybe I beat them and get away with it, but like it's so like that he uses influence to keep these actors, potentially to be around for sequels. So, so it'll be really cool to continue to see Keanu, and he's definitely not going away anytime soon. But we're going to go away in a little bit, and we'll come back next week with our Christmas special.
I am ready. And if you're listening to this before we get there, because I hope I have this out in a few days, I'm saying it right now. I always feel like it gets snubbed. Jingle All the Way is the pick for me, but we'll go more into depth on that next.
And mine's probably going to be a musical. The musical. Speaking of musicals, I went to New York City this weekend, and
let's hear it.
And so my story, which I didn't write it up on Facebook because I was like, I don't think I can do justice to the story. I need to say it out loud. So let me try to do it. So Shannon and I won tickets to see Hamilton live a month ago, and we sat in the front row. 3 weeks later, I win tickets. Same exact seats, front row, Hamilton, twice in a month. The show was phenomenal, better than the first time, which I was actually surprised by. I thought it was going to be like, oh my goodness, I'm going to leave here going.
It can be different.
In the first episode, excuse me, in the first, sorry, in the first time, the understudy for Hamilton played. This time,
okay,
the guy who's Hamilton every day played, and it was wow. That first guy was awesome. This guy was like, oh yeah, no, this is why he's the main guy. Really great. But we went to dinner beforehand, and 44 X, right at the outskirts of Hell's Kitchen, and one of those restaurants where you're next to the people. Like there's a long bench, and so like you're. And I was like, oh, I kind of rolled my eyes, but the two people next to us, these two women, I was going to say older women, but they were probably maybe 5-6 years older than me. They were, but two older women, and they looked kind of New Yorky, and they didn't bother us. They didn't talk to us, except at the end. At the end, a couple of things happened. Shanna like spilled her coffee a little bit. They asked what time it was. So we wound up kind of talking to them about what we were doing, why we were in town, and she said, this woman says, I wish I knew her name. She goes, oh, what are you saying? What are you doing? She's like, you have to come see Come From Away. And I knew what the musical was, but Shanna didn't. And so she was explaining the plot to Shanna. And the plot is a story about this town where after September 11th, when all the planes had to land, like everyone was forced to land, there's this town where all these planes landed. So there was this cross-section of planes where people were from all these different cultures. And it's just a story of a couple of days in this town where these people from different countries and different cultures and different influences all kind of like congregate. And so it's this musical about this time.
Sounds awesome.
So sounds great, and the woman goes to Shanna, oh, where are you guys from? And Shanna goes, South Jersey. She's like, so you've heard of 9/11, right? Like, it was the greatest line ever.
What?
She goes, where are you from? South Jersey. So you've heard of 9/11. To which I wish that one of the few things I brag about myself is like I have a pretty quick wit. I'm pretty quick with things. I am so mad at myself for not being able to quickly go, no, what is this thing you speak of? Like I understood everything you said about that musical, but the 9/11 part, what is this? So she prefaced it from, where are you from? Where were we going to be from? So if we were like, oh, we're from Finland, we would have heard of 9/11. Like, oh, we're from the outer, like, yeah.
First time to Earth? First time to Earth?
Yeah, it's our first time on Earth, but we want Hamilton tickets, so, oh, yeah, no, 9/11, yeah. We're really interested in your history's Founding Father stage. We haven't gotten to the part in the early 2000s. It was one of my, wow, I just want to be like, lady, like 9/11. I'm so annoyed at myself.
Speechless.
Right, like what is this? Again, and not to in any way make light of 9/11. It was just like, I again, like in 2 years, Jane's going to be sitting at a table after and someone's going to be like, oh yeah, we learned about 9/11 in school. Like she's going to be like, yeah, we learned about it today. That's the day of the 12th. Like, there's no one I can say, where are you from? Like, we're both clearly in our 40s. We're both adult. Like, so. That was my favorite. She seemed interesting.
She did. I was surprised she didn't follow it up with talking about her aunt and then being like, yeah, she came into contact with somebody with COVID. Do you guys know what COVID is? You'd be like, oh, no.
Right. Is it like this COVID? Like, yeah. Are you guys wearing masks for the same reason we are? Like that's. It was a special moment because I was like, I've never, and she was a real New Yorker though. She was a real New Yorker, so it was a neat experience. So, and my first time ever seeing the Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center.
That's a sight.
So
yeah,
and I will say, waiting to see it till I'm almost 50. I think in my mind it was going to be 70 stories tall.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got there, and I was like, oh, it's a large tree, and it's large, it's huge, it's I'm like,
it's a monster.
Like, I've got that tree in my backyard, like, okay, like, right. But again, and Shanna, who's usually the pessimistic on the team, was like, no, look at the lights, look how gorgeous it is, look, she's a huge fan of doing lights. She's like, look how well the lights are done and how evenly they're spaced. So it was funny to kind of be like, oh yeah, it's okay. I was more like psyched about like, oh, that's the entrance to Saturday Night Live. That's where they filmed that part, and that's Jimmy Fallon's studio, and that's so. And seeing the little ice skating rink where they always do a shot of SNL. So, and to learn about September 11th, that was kind of a neat experience.
It was an experience to New York this time around.
Yeah. So it was very cool. So hopefully, we do have our Christmas special on Monday, like we said. I will tell you, there will be some Spider-Man watching in between now and then. I can't fathom that on Monday I will not mention Spider-Man. So it'll segue into it. Thursday. It's like 6:30. Yeah. So.
Okay, so because I just pictured you like going Thursday, and like me being half asleep and you calling, being like, "Get the mics hot, get the mics hot."
Yeah. If everyone was going to have a chance to see it sooner, I would do that. It's like the first people saw it yesterday in the previews, and there's already apparently spoilers out there. Oh. Which and I was talking to a coworker today, and this is the first time I've done this for a movie, maybe ever, because I always temper my expectations, and I am going into Spider-Man expecting. Like I was saying to my coworker today, I'm expecting 22 things, and I can make that list of 22 things. And if they deliver 15 or 16 of them, I'll be happy. But I probably will be lying to you, because like I want all 22 things. I want Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire to be in this film. I know that I'm getting the other villains. Do I kind of need Miles Morales, the cartoon, in it somehow? Maybe like in a post-credit scene. So. And this is where I'm putting it. And I need number 22 on the list. The last credit. See, I can't decide where I want this scene. I don't know if I want it to be I don't know if I want it to be the last scene of the movie, or I don't know if I want it to be a post-credit scene. And and this is where I get to be a total nerd with this. Again, we know there's no spoilers here. We know from the previews that Peter tries to do a spell with Doctor Strange. The whole multiverse gets messed up. And it's just like, this is a mess, and Doctor Strange going, I don't think I have the strength. I'm not strong enough to fix this.
Yeah.
And somebody going like, well, who has the strength to fix this? There's only one person I can think of. And then we cut to Wanda, or Wanda appears and goes, what kind of mess have you, some corny line, so
you just said it, and I just have to, how I would, because this is how Marvel does things. If you were like, well, who's strong enough is it? For me, I feel like it would be really Marvel to just cut to her being like a coffee shop going like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or like reading like witchcraft book or something.
Right.
Like,
that would be her. Yes, exactly. Her just drinking her coffee. But that's what I really, I was like, yeah, that's the thing. And again, if I walk out and she doesn't do it, maybe if she's not in it, I won't be disappointed. But because again, there is a Doctor Strange movie for her to get, and again, but that's the expectation. She's in it, so I've got the expectations. Every review I've seen is that this is Infinity War Endgame level, like event movie. Like it is not. Damn. It is not a quick Spider-Man movie, with a couple cute storylines. It is a big event movie. So, yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I wish I could have done a little mini documentary of the booking of the tickets over the last 3 weeks. You know what? We've got play auditions for the musical in school, and I want to do them on Thursday and Friday. Shanna's got her work Christmas party on Friday. Saturday morning, Shanna has to do her, she hands out food at Lindenwald train station. All right, let's go Saturday afternoon. Maybe Saturday night. And the whole entire time going like, I can't wait till Friday. I can't wait till Saturday.
You won't focus. Right. Yeah, I know. Right. I know what that's like.
And I'm just like, you know what? If at 6:30, if the auditions are still going on, I'll be like, all right, the rest of the kids are great. Yeah, see you.
Good. We got a spot for everybody.
Yeah, listen. Don't crush these kids' dreams. I'm going to go somewhere where Dr. Octopus. I know Dr. Octopus is going to be there. Maybe the Vulture. Michael Keaton. That's the one thing is most of the crew on the auditions panel with me haven't seen an Avengers movie or a Marvel movie, so I'll just be very much tapping my toe on the end. Like, come on, let's go, all right.
Move it along.
That child does not need to re-sing. You had your chance. Go. Sorry.
Good, beautiful.
Mr. Master, you're usually the one who's always advocating for the kids to have a second chance. Not today.
No.
Yeah.
I saw her TikTok. She's great.
Right. Yeah. So she'll be fine. Listen. Go. So, all right. Merry Christmas, everyone. We'll see you next Monday.
We'll see everybody next Monday. Tune in for the Christmas special and see if your Christmas movie made the list. And don't just come and start saying like National Lampoons. Like, let's go. Let's get it on.
Hey, but yeah, so our National Lampoon, you're not going to be happy with us next week, National Lampoons fans. All right. Talk to everyone soon.
We'll see you next